Well done, Mr. Doyle. Just gather them by you. Please be seated, and as you're being seated, please take your jackets off if you have a jacket on. I'm delighted to see a swathe of pink for Pink Shirt Day out there in the audience, but please let's see how many of you are actually wearing pink. Okay, Andrew, send them around the back. Just send them around, and I'm sure DHL at the back can have them standing there. Right, we'll crack on. The pace of life at Shawnigan, as we know, is fast and furious, but I do want to rewind time to the musical and that incredible production that students and staff put on. I sent them a little message just afterwards, and I'm just going to read it back to you. I've adapted a little bit, but just so you know how I, as head, feel about the musical. So I wrote to them, "Dear cast and crew, it was such an absolute joy to be in the Macpherson Theatre. There was so much imagination and creativity bubbling through the musical, the choreography of performers, the chemistry between the main characters in action and song, the live orchestra, the set and stagecraft, and much more. It was a startling performance. I asked for the following quotation to be placed in the Gold Book at the beginning of this school year. There is more in us than we know if we could be made to see it. Perhaps for the rest of our lives we will be unwilling to settle for less. And you have shown through your performance as individuals and collectively that there is more in you than we know. It was your moment. The production was evidently the result of extraordinary teamwork between students and staff at Shawnigan. Know that you combined as a team to deliver something magical. You made us proud. Proud parents, proud grandparents, proud godparents, staff, fellow students, and many more. I invite all of those involved in the musical, on stage, backstage, set builders, and staff, to stand to take the applause of the rest of the Shawnigan community. Thank you, Gordon. You're becoming a lovey already, blowing kisses to the admiring masses. And then to Ski Week. And I often talk in here about the 4 C's of Shawnigan, the central values of the place. And it was an opportunity for curiosity. A lot of you tried new things, whether it was snowshoeing, some of you decided to go snow caving, some of you did Nordic skiing, or in fact entered a Nordic race for the first time, having never done Nordic skiing before. There was a lot of compassion out on the mountain, supporting others, beginners out there, the snow angels, other compassionate members of the community springing to the rescue when someone had flown off-piste and into a tree, or whether someone had a breakage or another type of accident. There was a lot of compassion on the mountain. And it was all about community. Mr. Mays always, where is Mr. Mays? Always talks to me about this being such an important part of the Shawnigan journey. On an annual basis, we come together as a community, and it's your moment to find your place in our community. And hopefully you will have come away from Ski Week with some wonderful experiences, but perhaps a new set of friends, a new set of experiences, and that you feel your place in our community. And of course, the last C, courage. Many of you were beginners, and I often encourage the staff team to remember that many of you are beginners setting out in a completely different context, unfamiliar with the mountain and skiing or snowboarding or whatever you're doing, and that takes great courage. Or those people who think, one student said to me, my friends back at home would never believe I've been snow caving and spent a night overnight out on the mountain. So for all of you who dug deep and there was a moment of courage, well done. I've got a couple of quotations for you. Vern, who runs the whole place at Manning Park, he wrote this: "There's something special about the energy of Ski Week, where everyone walks away with an experience not soon to be forgotten." And I think many, if not all of you, did that. I know the staff had an amazing time at Ski Week. And another person who, I think she lives near Chilliwack, took it upon herself to send an email to my office a couple of days ago. And she said this: "Last week I headed up to Manning Park for a midweek ski and was surprised to see so many people there. It turns out that this was the week of the Shawnigan kids. I interacted with a few students, actually all boys, on the chairlift and on the hill, and wanted to say how impressed I was with their friendliness and willingness to talk to an old lady skier. It was great to see so many kids enjoying the great outdoors." And there's a lesson there for whoever you sat next to, those boys, and I'm sure there were lots of other people skiing on the mountain with us, taking the opportunity to have a conversation, to look someone in the eye, to talk about your experiences. And you are always our ambassadors. So for all of you who took the time to have that conversation, I'm impressed. It's probably my moment to reference, I thought I'd say this, Miss Platt, who got on a chairlift and then noticed some Shawnigan students were vaping. And they didn't realize it was Miss Platt next to her until about 2 minutes in, just as she tackled them to do a full disciplinary mid-chairlift, she realized they weren't Shawnigan students at all. It was probably then a long ride to the top of the mountain for Mrs. Platt, but I love that dedication to the cause, the flagrant vapors out there in society. Sorry, Julie. Okay. With the theme of Pink Shirt Day, I've selected a couple of hymns, I think, that talk to the courage to tackle bullying as well. And I think if all of us are honest, every single one of us in our lives has at some point felt bullied, felt persecuted by someone else. So it is really important we think about it at Shawnigan and we make sure we're not associated with directly or indirectly with making other students feel victimized, hurt, and bullied. So please, each one of you needs to think about that we're creating a society here, a sort of microcosm of the larger society, that we actually take care of each other, which MCB reminds us on a regular basis. So standing in complete silence, please. Hymn number 10, we'll do the Strathcona hymn.
Afternoon, folks. That sounded really good, I think. Right. Mr. Lamont took the words out of my mouth. Let's start off with being honest with each other. Bullying has been and continues to be an issue in our country, in Canada, and at Shawnigan. Today is about accepting this, about talking about it, and making a commitment as a community to do our best to change things for the better. The most recent data gathered by UNICEF Canada on child well-being in the most developed countries ranks Canada a pretty poor 23rd out of 33 countries when it comes to rates of young people experiencing bullying. 1 out of 5 Canadian youth report being bullied at least several times a month in Canada. Every year, bullying continues to rear its ugly head at our school, at Shawnigan. Over the course of the gathering today, I'd like to take a look back, I'd like to establish where we are now, and I'd like to really agree on where we want to go regarding this. So looking back, Pink Shirt Day started in 2007 when 2 Canadian high school students noticed that a new grade 9 boy in their school was being bullied for wearing a pink shirt. Now, we know at Shawnigan, we expect and we do take care of each other. What does this mean? How do we do this? There's no playbook, but a simple version is you need to notice when there's an issue. You really need to care in your heart that you want to make things better, and then you need to do something about it. So these guys, they had noticed the issue, they did care enough to want to do something, and they acted. They did it. They decided what they would do. They would acquire and distribute pink shirts the next day. They would stand up for a weaker kid. So the next day, they showed up at their school with a bag of pink shirts, and they handed them out, putting the bully in his place amidst a sea of pink. This small act led to where we are today, where over 180 countries recognize Pink Shirt Day and affirm the stance against bullying. So what is bullying? What are we affirming as Shawnigan Lake School? What are we affirming our stance against? We define bullying as a person or a group of people intentionally making life difficult or unpleasant for somebody else. Repeated over time where there is a real or a perceived imbalance of power. Now, of course, this happens in person or online. The online piece is a particular challenge because people are very willing to type things onto a screen that they would never say to somebody in a conversation. I'd like to take this opportunity to also address hazing. Hazing, we define it as an activity forced upon someone in joining or participating in a group that humiliates, degrades, abuses, or endangers them, regardless of that person's willingness to participate. So we look to our senior students in particular to step up and lead in this space. Mr. Logan just told me there might be a technical issue, but I do have a plan B. I'd like you to listen to this audio clip from 2020. It really is worth listening to. Okay, plan B.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan and I'm a grade 11 in Lakes House. This is my 4th year at Shawnigan and I've seen a lot of amazing, beautiful things happen here. People's lives be transformed, people grow up from grade 8s to grade 11s, like great transformation. But in all this time here, I've also seen some not so pretty things. One of the pretty things was when I was in grade 8 and it was the first couple weeks and we were all scared as every new grade 8 is scared. If they tell you otherwise, they're... every couple days. And He would just check in on us. Nothing fancy, nothing big, just ask us how we're doing. Do you have any questions? Are you liking it so far? Just tiny, tiny things, maybe 5 minutes of his day. And it made the most tremendous impact on our room. It felt like Lakes was less of a boarding house and more of a home. You felt accepted. You felt like people wanted you there. And as a grade 8, that's not often the case. But I'd like to say that every grade 12 I've ever encountered was like Zane. That'd be a beautiful world. That'd be a perfect world. But that's not the reality. And the grade 12s and the senior students in the house really set the house culture, as we all know, as we all see in our everyday lives. And when grade 12s resort to aggression and anger and violence consistently to deal with problems, when they're bored, because that's how they witnessed it when they were in the younger grades, violence becomes normalized and aggression becomes the cool thing to do and the cool thing to respond with. And I fell deeply into this trap up until this summer, and those close to me may notice some changes, but my first reaction to anything, even boredom, would be like just aggression, like that, just anger and aggression. And I can regrettably say that after hearing these like heartbreaking stories, that I was on the giving end of some of these stories, that I was the one hurting these people. And it breaks my heart to say this, because now I could never do something like that, but that's the reality. And it's so easy to fall into the cycle of seeing these people you look up to, because when you're in grade 8, grade 9, even grade 10, you idolize the grade 11s, you idolize the grade 12s. They're your heroes, everything they do is right. It's what you should do. And when, as a senior student, you decide to resort to violence in any circumstance, resort to aggression towards a junior student, when they become senior students, they think that's what they should do. And it just becomes a cycle. Then I notice it starting to end, and it makes me really happy because it's something that has to end. And it starts with the senior students just saying no. They want to respond in violence, just say no, just talk to the people. Sit them down, have a discussion, ask them how they're doing instead of going to their room and messing with them, pick them up off the ground instead of pushing them down. That's what's going to start changing the culture around the boarding houses and around the school to one where we prioritize kindness and compassion, unconditional kindness, over things like aggression and violence. And I know there's still people in here that act the way that I have in the past, and they respond with things like violence, and you know who you are, and don't try to say, oh, I don't do that, because if you do. And just ask yourself, is this the right thing? And if you look within yourself honestly, and don't sugarcoat anything, and you think this isn't the right thing, then ask yourself, why am I doing it? And just stop. It's not that hard to just stop, to realize what you're doing, realize it's wrong, and just change your habits. Just pick that person off the ground, say a kind word. It doesn't take very long. It can save someone's life, and it can change the culture. Thank you.
Right. So that's Ryan Smith, somebody who I have a lot of respect for, who stood up on our Pink Shirt Day a little while ago. So really, senior students, everybody, but particularly our senior students, are you doing what Zane Carmelli did? Are you taking time to be kind to people? Are you picking people up or pushing them down? Are you choosing conversation, care, interest, and connection over aggression and intimidation? We expect that you will. The stories of people affected by bullying are really important, and I'd like to invite Kira up to speak about her experience. Kira?
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kira Jadresko, and I'm a grade 11 student in Strathcona. Today I'm talking about bullying and how it has affected my life. From a young age, I had always been someone people found as weird. People avoided me or never included me in anything. If I was in a group and someone had to leave, I would be the one voted out. I was fine with having no one for a while, but the older you get, the lonelier it is. And it really hurts to know that because of how you look or sound, people won't be around you. Back then, there were sly little comments about me and my weight, and people would ignore me as a way to never be around me. But when I got into middle school, a lot had changed. I started to make friends and even felt a little more confident in myself. However, there was one friend that I made, and she had been nice to me for a little while, but she started acting differently to me and my friends. She would make little comments to belittle me and make me feel bad about myself. She even went to the point of spreading rumors about me to people I liked, so everyone knew how weird and emotional I was. It even got so bad that I started becoming almost like a servant to her. At some point, I even knelt down when her shoe wasn't tied, and she made me tie it for her. Sadly, that wasn't the worst of it. At one point during our friendship, we were all talking behind our school. I started talking about Shawnigan and how I would be leaving the next year to go. She stopped talking and just looked at me. The next thing I knew, my ear was ringing and the side of my head was in pain. She hit me. All I could do was cry and hold my head. She had done this before to me in some other ways, but had never gotten to this point. This was different. She said she did it to show me what would happen if I left by myself, since I could never defend or take care of myself. She was a horrible friend. I used to blame myself when this happened. I always thought that I did something to deserve this. She was a bully and a manipulator. She would hurt me with words and actions every day, but made them seem like it was my fault. I never knew how friends were supposed to treat each other, so I let it happen. After I left to come to Shawnigan, I stopped talking to her. I stayed with a few good friends I did make at that school, and made amazing ones here. I never quite got over what happened, and sometimes I still blame myself for anything that happens to me if people yell or hit me. But I was able to overcome what happened and find friends that treat me well, and I love them for that. Never let someone push you around or make you feel horrible about yourself. It's better to get rid of that type of person from your life and find someone that will treat you great. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope you all had a good day.
Thank you very much, Kira. It takes a lot of courage to come up and tell that sort of story. It's a really important message. Thank you. So, looking ahead, navigating social dynamics, dealing with social friction and conflict while at Shawnigan is normal. It's part of the education that you receive. And as you work your way through these experiences, you'll learn how to effectively communicate, establish and maintain boundaries for yourself, be vulnerable, stand up for yourself, and critically stand up for others. In the Gold Book on page 21, it clearly says, at Shawnigan, we take care of ourselves and of each other. If you feel unsafe or know someone who's feeling unsafe, talk to a trusted adult immediately or report it anonymously at erasebullying.ca. It goes on to say, if another person or group of people is making you feel uncomfortable, scared, or hurt, and it happened or is happening on purpose, you have the right to make it stop. If you see a person or group of people making another person uncomfortable, scared, or hurt, and it is happening or is happening on purpose, then you have a duty to make it stop. We also have the QR codes posted all over the place, which is a one-stop shop for support if you need it. Access that QR code for a direct opportunity to see a school counselor, a community clinical counselor or therapist, crisis support line and resources, the youth help phone, the anonymous reporting tool link, and SOGI support group and resources. If you need help, folks, you can get it. I'd like to finish with another story, which is a really important one about somebody who found the help they need by talking to an adult. In 2019, again on a pink shirt day, a student stood up in front of us and told us how his life had been affected by bullying. He was being repeatedly targeted with insults, put-downs, and it was having a devastating effect on his self-esteem. Others joined in on the bullying, and the student got to the point where he thought he must be the problem. He must be doing something wrong to be treated in this way. He thought about taking his own life every day. There was no way out in this student's mind, and there was no way to make things better. The student was on his way to Ripley's, and he passed by his house director, Mr. Doyle, who noticed that something was up. Mr. Doyle asked him the simple question, "What's up, bud?" were the words that he used. The student collapsed into Mr. Doyle's hug. Mr. Doyle's hugs are famous, and the whole situation poured out. In the student's words, "Mr. Doyle relentlessly helped me, and I can honestly say that if I didn't pass by him on that day, I'm certain that I would not be here." Why didn't he come forward? Earlier than that, he was scared of being labeled as a snitch. Think about that. A student was thinking about taking his own life, but he didn't come forward because he didn't want to be a snitch. Once it came out and the situation was addressed, others were also being mistreated by this bully. One question from a caring, loving adult made such a huge difference. Bringing these tough conversations out into the open is important, and it's really, really healthy. Think about what you've heard. Talk about it in your houses this evening, big brother group, big sister groups, however you want to do it. I'd say heads of houses or leaders in houses, you lead on that. And think about over the course of this day and every day how you can look after yourselves and each other. Thanks.
Thanks, MCB. Thanks, Kira. Powerful stuff. I think when we did the community and belonging survey in November, we as staff were quite shocked that how many of you said, "I felt discriminated against. I've suffered microaggressions." So it's not good enough for us to say, "Oh, it doesn't happen in my boarding house. It doesn't happen in my grade group." We, all of us, staff and students, need to hold the mirror up to our faces and think, do we contribute to that type of atmosphere where other people are targeted and persecuted, and it makes me feel better to put someone down. So that's our ask of this session with you and this gathering, is to put the mirror up to your face. And if you don't like what you see, change it or seek help to change it, as Ryan did. I do want to pull on one thing. A prospective parent had a tour last term with a grade 12 from Lonsdale's, and the grade 12, the prospective parent's feedback to me was, a student who'd been here for 5 years said one of the differences in the school, it had become a kinder place, which for me as a head to hear was a complete joy to hear. It doesn't mean we've stamped out bullying in our community, but it was great to hear a 5-year student saying, it's got better, but we can never be complacent. We can never rest on our laurels. We need to tackle it. And we also need the support of the grade 12s and the 11s to make sure it's not happening under your watch. Okay, we're going to go with hymn number 18, and there's a nice line in there about whoso besets him round with dismal stories. If you're thinking, what does that mean? It's, people who gossip about other people and make their lives uncomfortable and are unkind towards them by a spurious gossip. So, please rise, hymn number 18.
Thank you all. Just a very quick announcement. Today is, in the Christian calendar, Ash Wednesday. I have to pronounce that very carefully. Ash Wednesday. It's not a day that people clean out their fireplaces. It's a day that some Christians get ash crosses on their heads as a way of reminding us of our mortality, our connection to the earth. So every year, a few students ask me, are we going to have an Ash Wednesday service? There will be an Ash Wednesday service at 5 for those of you who are interested. If you want to know more about it, you can ask me. But for those of you who are it's really important for you to get your ashes 5 o'clock today. And if you see your roommate with ashes, don't try and tell them there's a smudge on their head. They know that there's a smudge on their head. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Treat each other kindly, as you heard today. It's the most important thing that we do here. So thank you. Have a wonderful day.
And just a couple of last flyers from me. The girls, grade 8 and 9 basketball, have a tournament, so if you do have a chance, pop up and support them. And the other thing, Mr. Pollock, can I just mention a little bit about your game tonight, or do you want to do it from back there? Can I say why we're the Delta piece? Okay. So there is, at 6:30, the under-15s have got a game up at the arena. You'll see some of them, I think, are wearing their pink jerseys for the occasion. Please go up there. And for the reality of what MCB and Kira and Ryan were talking about, that Mr. Pollock was informed last weekend that a fellow player from the Delta squad on the mainland, actually, I think he was 14 years old, took his own life as a result of cyberbullying last week. And I think Mr. Pollock and others, they're going to hold a minute's silence as an expression of solidarity for the Delta squads out there. And it's just a reminder of just how painful and hurtful and life-threatening bullying can be. And I know they're actually playing one of the Delta teams this weekend as well, and will be expressing their solidarity then. So there's the reality and the truth behind bullying taken to an extreme, and how dangerous cyberbullying is. So, food for thought. I'm going to let staff leave. I'm going to hand over to Arnica and Gabe, and if Miss Daniel can play us out, and then those two will lead us out.